Television critics For years, television critics have wondered, can we successfully combine a choreographed dance to Lady Marmalade overlaid over a brutal murder? And today, Claws answers that with a resounding yes, so don't move a muscle.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AfterBuzz TV's official Claws After Show here, as I mentioned, at AfterBuzz TV. As you may or may not notice, whether you're watching or listening, it's a lonely day here on the AfterBuzz panel. It is just me, your host, Jeff Graham, but I'm going to bring it today, and we're going to have an amazing discussion because this was an amazing episode. First of all, I'm going to be in the chat, so for those who are tuning along, I see we have Metamorphosis. I'm glad you're here. I'd love to chat with you. Anyone else who's in the chat, I'm here. It's an open discussion, and just because it's only me, guys, doesn't mean this isn't going to be a lit show. So I'm excited to talk about this episode because I mentioned I thought this was an amazing episode of Claws. I gotta say, I've been kind of liking this show, maybe not loving this show, and the last two for me have really sealed the deal. I feel like we've upped character stakes, we've upped tension, and we've just in general upped everything that makes this show so good. Like most episodes of this show, I feel like this episode really started with a bang intro and a bang outro. So I think what I'm going to do for today, for those listening, is I'm going to kind of start by talking about the very first scene, and then kind of weave in and out of the middle by talking character by character, and then talking about the last scene. Let's see. I've got Metamorphosis saying it's okay. Oh, I love you too, man. And we got Sylvia B saying I called it. Roller is alive. I guess we might as well start talking about there. For those tuning in, obviously, spoiler alert, you've seen the episode. It really looks like Roller is alive. That was an unbelievable way to finish the episode. And I gotta say I'm glad, because I don't know about y'all, but I've been getting kind of tired of these ghost Roller hallucinations. That's kind of been, I think, my least favorite part of the show. Yeah, I just think overall I wasn't necessarily buying the ghost Roller. And I like how this show is campy. I like how it kind of pushes the tone and brings it over the top. But something about this ghost Roller situation I wasn't buying, so it looks like Roller is actually alive. We're going to get to the last scene in a minute. But before we do that, we might as well talk about the first scene, which was this amazing introduction. Of course, the thing I like about this show, the thing I've always liked about this show, is we pick up right where we left off. So last we had seen in the previous episode, episode 4, Dr. Ken had been kidnapped. Because people were suspicious that Dr. Ken was directly linked to Roller's murder. Really, in the last couple episodes, we've been seeing that Roller's murder is really leading to this bigger and broader branch of danger and conflict and collateral damage. Whether or not it's literal, people are dying, people are getting kidnapped, all because people are trying to hunt down Roller's killer. And it's a great use of dramatic irony because, of course, as the audience, we know that Desna and Virginia are directly attached, and we'll get more to that in a minute. But I thought this was an amazing scene. This was a great way to start off the episode. I was reading some coverage online that said, of course, go to the swamp. It's Florida. Why didn't we go to the swamp in the first place? But we get to the swamp. We see Bryce holding this gun, shaking uncontrollably, wanting to shoot Dr. Ken. Jen, of course, Bryce's wife, and Desna show up, and it's their job to come save the day. This was a very intense, dramatic scene, and we're talking about performances in this show. Again, the performances were brought. I really think Niecy, she showed us her dramatic side, and she has this way. I like to admire actors. I would not consider myself an actor, but she has this way of really using her voice to convey emotion, and she kind of has this shaky, crackly element in her voice when things get really intense, and when she's asking Bryce to drop that gun, and eventually she gets the gun from him and he collapses in her arms, that was a pretty amazing moment. So I thought this was a great way to start out the episode, and it really set the stage of letting us know that Roller's death isn't just going to affect Virginia and Desna. It isn't just going to affect the girls in the salon. It's becoming more and more clear how the writers are using Roller's death to really initiate all of the chaos and craziness of the first season. And basically, the rest of the episode was weaving in and out of plots and characters, showing us how Roller's death is affecting them, how it's affecting other characters, how it's bringing out other accusations, and how it's really putting everyone, not just Desna and Virginia, in danger. Before we move on and actually talk about the episode, guys, I do really want to quickly shout out our sponsors. Like last week, our episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Guys, MeUndies is the best in the business. They deliver amazing undergarments. So let me talk about it. MeUndies is guaranteed the softest underwear that you will ever wear. They're one of those products that you just have to experience for yourself. And I could tell you about it all day long. But trust me, feeling is believing. So every pair of MeUndies is sustainably sourced and made from a micromodal fabric that's 3 times softer than cotton. I personally didn't know that cotton could get any softer, but this MeUndies, this micromodal is even better. Because MeUndies comes in all kinds of colors and patterns, they sell out quickly and they have limited edition patterns, so you really want to get on the train before the trend gets before you. This month's patterns were designed by the legendary 80s clothing brand Cross Colors, with names that live up to their bold designs and bright colors. We've got Increase D-Piece, we've got Ya Dig, and we've got the OG. And you've got to see them for yourself right now. And if you are interested, we have a promo code for you. You'll get 20% off of your first pair and receive free shipping. That's right, free shipping. Only at MeUndies.com/buzz. Again, that's only at MeUndies.com/buzz. Guys, there's a reason that MeUndies has sold 5 million pairs to date, and you'll feel it when you put them on. And if you don't love your first pair, they're free. So again, for 20% off your first pair and free shipping, go to MeUndies.com/buzz. That's MeUndies.com/buzz. Okay, now we got to talk about the episode. Let's see, we've got some active people in the chat. Oh, no thanks to Virginia. We're going to talk about Virginia because she is rolling herself deeper and deeper and deeper into this web of lies. In fact, let's go ahead and start by talking about Virginia. This show was so smart to pair Desna and Virginia together because, of course, until the end of this episode, when Polly sneaks her way in, Virginia and Desna are the only people who actually know the identity of Roller's killers, and of course, it's the two of them. What an amazing way to pair two kind of opposite characters. Normally, we wouldn't necessarily see characters like Desna and Virginia working together or conspiring, but they're doing that by necessity. I think the writers were really, really smart to pair those two because they are such foils to each other. They're such opposite characters, and it's really fun to watch them forced together. And we've talked about this, but even though Desna gets really frustrated by Virginia, there's also kind of a maternal instinct, and I think Desna feels almost this motherly bond towards Virginia. But of course, Virginia keeps spilling the lies, and the drama's getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more, yeah, exactly. Melissa just said Virginia's so annoying because she doesn't listen. So agree. But you know what? I kind of like her, and I think that's partly because of Carucci's performance. I say it every week, but Carucci can act. Who knew Carucci could act? And she's doing a really, really good job because I'm not sure Virginia would be a likable character played in the hands of any other actress, but she's really got that innocent girl, in some ways dumber than she looks, in some ways smarter than she looks thing going on, and I think it's awesome. Okay, now I have to talk about Polly. I kind of knew, okay, great observation. Virginia and Desna remind me of Thelma and Louise. I love it. Yeah, very good point, Metamorphexis. I think that's a fun observation. Okay, I'm going to go back to Polly because I knew from the start she was going to be one of my favorite characters, and Carrie Preston is just destroying this performance, and I mean that in the best way. Polly is it for me. Niecy Nash is, of course, the queen, but I can't help but feel like Carrie Preston portraying Polly might be stealing that thunder a little bit from Niecy Nash because she's amazing. Polly has 3 standout scenes in this episode. First, we've got to talk about when Polly meets Virginia at her home. Sylvia, I'm with you. I love Polly too. Polly has just baked fresh cupcakes. She's wielding a knife, and she tells Virginia, go ahead and grab a seat. Already I've got chills. Then she starts talking about how she knows Virginia is connected to this murder. Man, when that revelation was dealt out, the chills kept coming. Finally, when she chucks the knife on the ceiling, and the knife starts to vibrate, and she's staring Virginia in the eyes, and even Carucci, as Virginia has no choice but to comply to Mom. I just thought this was amazing. And Carrie Preston's giving us such a weird, specific performance with these amazing choices. And in any other show, I don't know if they would work, but in Claws, it just is amazing. So I love that. And eventually, they decide to bring Polly in on the action. We're going to get more about the specifics of this foster parent conspiracy, but basically they frame two people and involve Polly. I'm going to stay on Polly for a minute. And Polly has to initiate an Ocean's 11 style heist montage where she's wearing a full black body sleeve. And this was so funny to me. I thought this episode was a little serious, so I was really glad about this giving some lightness into the episode. We see Polly rolling on the floor, we see Polly breaking into a vent, and we see her sneaking out of the house right as the owners pull up. This was epic, this was hilarious, and this was so well performed by Carrie Preston. Even physically, she's really embodying this character that I've grown to love. It looks like you guys in the chat agree. We've got Sylvia B, we've got Melissa Stewart, and Metamorphexis agreeing that Polly might be the best character on this show. But if you disagree, let us know in the comments. Let us know who your favorite character in the show is. All right, so that's Polly. She had a standout episode. But now we've actually got to talk about why Polly is involved in the first place. So we learn about Dean and Desna's foster parents. Of course, this was introduced to us last episode, and I do have to say, at the beginning of this show, I wasn't necessarily sure about Dean's performance, but it's really, really grown on me, and Dean is also kind of sneaking up to be a very interesting character for me. He's played by Harold Perrineau, and I gotta say, his performance, Harold's really, really bringing it in this performance of Dean. So we learn that Desna and Dean grew up in the foster system. They didn't have conventional parents, and we meet one of their parents, Sets, who are these really, really wealthy white real estate agents who might have a bit of a drug problem. Dean can't shake it. Dean, in the last 2 episodes, has been talking about his foster parents. He can't let it go. He can't let it go. And finally, he's like, you know what, Desna? I've got to see him. I've got to see him. I've got to do it. We do get the funny moment on the billboard where he does draw not 2, but 1 testicle on their face. I love that. But we have the, of course, penultimate scene where they go to the real estate house showing, and we learn some really, really dark shit about the foster parents. Pardon my French, but this is Claws, so I'm going to say shit. We learn that these foster parents treated Desna and Dean really, really poorly. We learned that it might even be a racist thing. I don't know, but I was super uncomfortable with this. I mean, it's definitely a racist thing because, of course, we have the exchange of, well, you were addicted to Coke. Well, your kind is the kind making it. That was intense, and that got my blood boiling. But we learned that Dean had to get potty trained by being beaten. But even worse, we learned later in the episode that something molestation-related happened with Dean. Something sexual. Hey, Kate. Welcome to the chat. We got Kate McCree in the chat. Glad you're here. This was dark, and it was dark in the best way. And they were bitches. I'm with you, Kate. And yeah, this was just really, really dark, and I'm glad the show went there because I think other shows might have shied away from it. But we learned that these foster parents really gave Desna and Dean a poor upbringing, so Desna gets a little idea. Desna's thinking, you know, people are starting to get suspicious. People are beginning to realize that that me and Virginia are linked to this murder, and not only that, but other people are suffering because of Roller's murder. The more that Uncle Daddy gets suspicious of certain people, the more collateral damage we'll get. We already saw that with Dr. Ken, and we've seen, of course, Titus's companion murdered last episode. So Desna thinks, I can seal the deal in 2 ways. I can not only get rid of my vicious foster parents that ruined Dean's life, also, I can close the book on Roller's murders. So that's, of course, when we get Polly planting the evidence. But Desna puts in an anonymous call. I sure hope it's an anonymous call because if any way that call gets linked back to Desna, she's pretty screwed. I don't know why she made the call from her house because, of course, the police can track her. She should have gone to that swamp in the middle of nowhere, gotten a burner phone, and made that call. So I think that's going to come back to bite her in the ass later. But we're going to get back to the resolution of the foster parent story at the end because we get this amazing final montage. But we also have to talk about Jen and Bryce. So the actor who plays Bryce, I got to shout him out, is Kevin Rankin. He's giving us another amazing performance. You know, he's this kind of recovering addict, and he's tied into Uncle Daddy's family and crime ring. He's playing this really interesting blend of vulnerable and terrified, but also wanting to kind of be a strong badass. And we saw his breakdown after having chopped up that body last episode, and we see him breaking down, potentially shooting Dr. Ken at the beginning of this episode. So Jen offers him anal and fried peanut butter sandwiches, and still it doesn't necessarily seem to do the trick, because I think Bryce is really caught between two worlds. He's caught between the wife he loves and the life he wants to provide his kids, but you know, he's tied into Uncle Daddy's family. So that's really, really interesting, and I'm excited to see that relationship develop more. All right. Uncle Daddy's family. We get to meet Uncle Daddy's wife, and of course they meet in the strip club. This was a great scene. I think I would have loved to have seen Toby in that scene in the strip club when they're talking about some of the unfoldings that are happening with Roller's death. Evan Daigle, you know we love you. We had you on the show before, but I'm excited to see more of you. But I think now it's time for us to talk about this amazing final scene. This was bananas. Of course, we first have to talk about Lady Marmalade comes on, and two things are happening at once. Of course, we have the brutal, intense murder of Desna and Dean's foster parents, but we also have our 5 ladies at the salon slaying designed choreography to Lady Marmalade. I loved this. I loved watching these 5 ladies kill it in the salon. Of course, we see Niecy Nash leading the tribe, but this was some like real choreography. And this is, I will say, the second time in a row, because we had a full synchronized swimming scene last episode. And the thing I love, if you go back and watch this choreography scene, each one of those characters is actually playing and doing the choreography how their character would be doing it. So we see Niecy Nash just killing it in the front, but if you watch Carrie Preston play Polly, when she's doing this move, it's just kind of like this, for those listening, she's kind of waving her hand in front of her face just exactly the way that Polly would be doing it. It's a very physical performance, and I love it. But as this is happening, of course, we also see Desna and Dean's foster parents getting brutally murdered by Roller and his crew, and we learn that the main perpetrator of this murder is, of course, the aforementioned Bryce. So I know Jen and Bryce are trying to work on it, but they're not in a good place. We have some thoughts about Bryce in the chat, so I'm going to look it up. Metamorphexis says Bryce is going to take Uncle Daddy's place. Ooh, that's an interesting prediction. Kind of Jesse Pinkman to Uncle Daddy's Walter White. For those of you guys who watch Breaking Bad, Jesse Pinkman kind of starts out as the innocent, naive high school guy, but kind of gets into corruption with Walter White. I like that a lot. Kate McCree says the foster parents died way too easily. Yeah, that was an intense scene. We have Revanche24 in the chat. She says, I wonder if Jen was upset at Desna when she finds out. She knew who killed Roll. I know. This is going to be, I'm glad you brought that up, Revenge, because as people learn that Desna's been keeping Roller's death quiet, there could be some hurt feelings. Obviously way more than that, but Desna's been claiming that this salon, these 5 chicks are her crew, and yet her and Virginia have been keeping this a secret the whole time. So it's little by little it's coming out, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Yeah, Bryce is so broke. Okay, Melissa has some opinions about Bryce. Melissa says, I'm sorry, but Bryce is a punk. I have a feeling Jen will cheat on him or something. Ooh, that's an interesting thing because, Melissa, if Bryce does cheat on Jen, if Jen does cheat on Bryce, you know he's going to be pissed, and that could actually mean danger for her and her kids. So, interesting observation. We'll have to see with Jen and Bryce, but yeah, there's definitely some stuff cooking there, and part of me is like, Jen, why did you marry into this family? You know, I love Jen. I think she's sweet, and I like Jen Lyons' performance a lot, too. She's kind of the straight man of the group, straight woman, I should say, but she still kind of occupies a really important kind of best friend role in their crew, and I like her. Ooh, Kate thinks Virginia's going to turn on Desna. I don't think so. I think those two are going to stick it out, maybe until the season finale. Oh, of course, we didn't talk about Mandy and Desna. I want to really quickly, before we talk about the very last thing we saw in the episode, which was bananas, I want to talk about Desna, and I want to talk about Mandy, because it looks like Desna might get her dream salon. And I kind of like this weird friendship that Desna and Mandy are developing. I feel like Mandy's this like repressed white, affluent white collar girl who like needs a little bit of Desna in her life so that she can like eat a cupcake. That was a great scene, and I love that Desna's she's like, you never let a man tell you what you can and can't eat. It's just this awesome feminist girl power of this show that I'm just living for. But that's mostly the episode. Before we move on and talk about the big revelation, anyone in the chat who wants to contribute to anything I'm missing, ask some questions, I love it. But I am going to talk about this. Roller's alive. I called it episode 2, you guys. I might have called it episode 1. We can roll the tape and check. But Roller is alive in the clawsiest way ever. Roller wakes up in the middle of some home with some spiritual hippie lady who's doing some kind of meditation routine. I don't know. But she walks over. Roller's eyes eke open, and he's asking for water. Because who knows if he's even been awake? Who knows where he is? But right now, he's chained up, and he is subject to some meditation lady's bidding. I don't know what that means. I don't know what's going to happen. In any other show, I might be like, what the hell is this? But in Claws, I'm like, this is perfect. I love it. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen with Roller. Yeah, Melissa says, hopefully Mandy divorces her husband. Preach, Melissa. Eventually, I think Mandy might be looped into mafia life. I could see that. Yeah, Sylvia, I did call it. You know it. So I think Roller's really alive. And again, I'm glad because I was getting tired of Ghost Roller. I like that they kept Jack Kesey involved because I do think he's an amazing actor. He's killing it. But I'm glad that Roller's alive. And I don't know when he's going to re-enter the scene. I think he might not make his way back until the season finale. But oh boy, when Roller's been dead for a month and people have died because of Roller's death, when he shows up, it's going to go down. It's going to be crazy. I guess with that, we might as well get into some predictions.
Your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
Okay. So, I admittedly didn't necessarily check the next week on Claws post-credits prediction segment that TNT gives us, but I kind of have a feeling we're going to get an episode unrelated to the Uncle Daddy Clinic Russian stuff. I think we're going to get kind of a standalone episode. It might be more about the girls as a group. I got to say, I want to see more of Quiet Anne. I feel like we haven't seen that much of Quiet Anne, and she's such a good actress that I'm excited to see more of that develop. We see hints of it here and there, but we've gotten a lot of Polly, which I'm living for because Carrie Preston is just destroying it. But I want to see more I want to see more Quiet Anne. But I think next week we're going to take a bit of a break from a lot of this intense plot. I'm loving this intense plot. I'm loving the developments, but it's kind of, in every season you get 1 or 2 episodes that are just kind of about the world, kind of about the girls hanging out. I want to get one of those slower episodes. So I don't know. I do think everyone's going to find out. All of the girls are going to find out. I mean, Desna at this point won't be able to keep it a secret for much longer. I didn't think Polly was going to find out as soon as she did, but she has. Yeah, Carrie Preston's giving me life too, Kate. I totally agree. But yeah, I mean, in terms of this show, guys, I'm loving it. I think the last 2 episodes have really turned up the game. They're discovering what's working. Again, I never thought a show could successfully pull off a joint Lady Marmalade murder montage, but I thought it really started to feel like legit prestige TV in that scene. But it kind of knows it's still this like sleazy, trashy, guilty pleasure show, and it's kind of it's towing that line so well. It's the perfect summer show to me. I can't wait to keep watching it. The performances are killing it, and a show like this needs to know what it is. It needs to maintain tonal consistency. And I really think they're doing a good job, and I hope they don't let me down for these last 5 episodes. But if they keep blazing the trail like they have in these first 5, I'm living for it. Yeah, Metamorphexis thinks Quiet Anne's episode might be towards the finale. I agree. I could see something really, really dramatic happening with Quiet Anne. I could see Quiet Anne going off and, like, killing Bryce. No, not that. Not killing Bryce, but, like, I don't know, doing something really dramatic and dangerous, and she's been quiet this whole show. and just doing something crazy. In the comments, let us know what you think we can expect from Quiet Ann, because right now I don't know. Yeah, you just mentioned Harold's performance as Dean. I agree, he's killing it. I wasn't sure at first because I think it's tough to play mentally challenged characters, but he's doing a really good job with it, and it's really consistent. Yeah, but I think that's about all we've got for today's episode. I loved it. I could watch Polly sneak around and roll on the floor in a black silk body costume all day. And I hope we get one more choreographed scene because those ladies slay. But I think until then, guys, thanks for putting up with my solo review. I think I covered everything, but if I miss anything, please let me know in the comments. We love you guys. We're so happy to have such an engaged audience. I mean, this is the kind of show you have to talk about. You can't just watch this show on your own because there's so much amazing stuff happening. And so we're here. We're in the chat. We're in the comments. We're on Twitter. Let us know what you're thinking. We're here every week. And next week, it won't just be me, I promise. We'll have some more of our favorites in the studio. And I'll let Jesse take the captain's chair again. But guys, this has been your Claws After Show, Season 1, Episode 5. My name is Jeff Graham. If you guys want to find me online, you can do so at Jeffrey C. Graham. For those of you guys who watch other TV, we cover just about everything here at the network. So tune in, find your show, join the conversation. That's why we're here. We're the water cooler of TV. We're your online water cooler. And last thing, if you guys want to catch me on another platform, I host a show on Fridays on our sister network, Popcorn Talk, where we table read unproduced scripts. And we're table reading an amazing comedy this Friday called Suckers. It's a parody satire of all of the vampire shows that have come out in the last, 5 years. So tune in. That's 10 a.m. on Fridays, and the show's called The Unproduced Table Read. You guys are giving me some love in the chat. Thank you. I love you guys, too. We're here next week. We're all back, and we can't wait to talk some claws. Buzz you later, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.